"Let there be mutants" could be the altered line Scarlet Witch says when compared to her comic book counterpart, and her saying "no more mutants" when she erased almost all mutants from existence. The simplest way of how the mutants could come to the MCU, a way for which Marvel Studios would need a lot of explanation to do. However, we might have something else at hand about how the mutants could come to the MCU. Of course, before the rumored, already in development, The Mutants movie at Marvel Studios. First things first, the mutants are coming to the MCU, which is a good thing, as we have been craving for their kind to join the ranks of our favorite heroes we have been seeing so far. One of the most interesting things about the mutants is that rumors have been spreading that Marvel Studios are indeed already working on an X-Men movie reboot, with it right now being titled The Mutants. And if these rumors are indeed true, then we're in for a treat moving forward with the MCU, with us being able to see the mutants kind make their debut even during Phase 4 of the MCU. According to the Illuminati, sources say that Marvel Studios president Kevin Feige is producing a new feature film, which will serve as an X-Men reboot of sorts, with the movie itself being the biggest MCU mutant movie by the time it releases. There are not a lot of known facts regarding the movie, but we think that it is a sure thing. You know, the movie being somewhat in development for a future release, which is mainly due to the fact of the rights being now in Marvel Studios' hands following Disney's acquisition of them from 20th Century Fox back in 2019. An X-Men movie has been teased for quite a while, and with the most recent projects, including the likes of Doctor Strange in a Multiverse of Madness movie trailer, showcasing a Patrick Stewart as Professor X, probably as the leader of the MCU's Illuminati, we should be expecting more and more mutants to be entering the MCU, with them being part in almost all of the future MCU movies and TV series moving forward, with the Doctor Strange sequel being just the tip of the iceberg. Thus, with everything in mind, if reports are indeed true and the alleged Mutants movie are legitimate, the movie itself would mark the second major Marvel Studios project hailing from the X-Men mythos, with a third Deadpool movie already confirmed to take part in the MCU, being the first one that connects the MCU as a whole towards until recently Fox's X-Men. We have already mentioned 2 mutants confirmed to be part of the MCU, so we can see that the plan to bring the mutants to the MCU unofficially, not in their movie, but rather making each of their debut in different movies and TV series that are already set in the MCU.
Oh! Canada!
Another interesting and very confusing at the time appearance came straight from Evan Peters, who, let's say, reprised his role as Quicksilver for his Marvel Studios debut Disney Plus series WandaVision. And we are saying confusing because of the fact that Evan Peters was portraying the role of Quicksilver, but the one in Fox's X-Men movies, and not the one we sadly lost in the second Avengers movie, a character that was played by Aaron Taylor Johnson. Mutants will enter the MCU is the name of the game when their kind is considered, and already leaks have been flying around about the future of the Marvel Cinematic Universe and what they will bring to the table. There are a lot of potential ways of how the mutants will become part of the MCU. However, we selected a few ones we think are the closest to being the right ones. And without further ado, let's dive right in and see what are Marvel Studios' big X-Men plans moving forward. To start things off, there is no doubt about it. For many, one of the most overlooked movie of the MCU's Phase 4 is Eternals, with the movie presenting itself as something that belongs to the MCU, but not really connected to the main timeline, which is not the case at all, as that movie might be the key to the connection between the MCU we know it to be right now and the mutants that are coming our way. One of the more interesting theories about how the X-Men could come to the MCU came from the fact that the origins of the mutants could be traced back to the Celestials, and them being the creators of the X gene.
Who can tell me what an apex predator is?
Animals that hunt their prey for food.
Very good.
As the oldest and most powerful beings in the multiverse, they are responsible for the creation of the Eternals, their arch-enemies, the Deviants, but also the creation of the X gene that manifested thousands of years later to turn the regular humans into mutants, with each individual becoming more powerful versions of themselves and given a set of skills different from everyone else in the universe. A canon story about the Celestials suggests that when they visited Earth, they left a latent gene in humans that would not manifest itself for a long time. That is the synopsis of this, and even though the word mutants has never been mentioned outright, the implication seems pretty clear, and this might be the explanation we will be given in the future as to how the mutants will become part of the MCU. and how they came to be in the first place. The time has come. We are finally getting the mutants into the MCU. However, outside of all mutants already mentioned before, who could be the next one to make a cameo, possibly in the Doctor Strange sequel? Well, Joseph Deckelmeyer of the Illuminati thinks that outside of Patrick Stewart as Professor X, we are also going to get his friend from the previous movies who has been with him for a long time. And no, we are not talking about Magneto, but rather Wolverine, who has been rumored to make an appearance in the upcoming Doctor Strange sequel. A brief one, with the character being played by someone else and not Hugh Jackman, which is a sad thing to hear. But we should feel lucky to even see the character, especially after the events of the Logan movie. Yikes. On the other hand, knowing just how many alternate realities there are, we might even get Hugh Jackman's Wolverine. As to from which point in his life, we are not entirely sure. If a cameo happens and Wolverine does appear, there is a chance Marvel plans on using Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness to gauge just how open comic book fans are to a new actor's take on the beloved X-Men character. And last but not least, we have two ways of intertwining, which we think can be a way of how mutants become part of the MCU, and not coming from somewhere like some rumors that have been spreading of the mutants coming to the MCU because of fractured multiverses, but rather created within the MCU. One theory suggests that the mutants, outside of the supposedly rumored movie yet to be confirmed, could come part of the MCU as part of a super soldier program, which is highly likely because both the Falcon and the Winter Soldier and Black Widow projects showcase that Marvel Studios is not afraid to add to the mythology of the super soldier program within the MCU and the serum that comes with it. And the other way of how the mutants could be introduced in the MCU, and them already being a part of it for quite a while, is that Marvel Studios could adopt the Marvel Comics Ultimate Universe story, which could change how Tom Holland's Peter Parker was made to be, and instead of being bitten by a spider, him being infused with an altered version of the super soldier serum that would go on to have the same effects on Peter Parker, but in a slightly different way. On a related note, tell us down in the comments below, what are your thoughts on the mutants as a whole? Which movie so far has been your favorite, despite the messed up and confusing timelines of their movies? And which character will make his or her debut moving forward? And in what movie while we're at that too? And also, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon if you would like to see more videos like this in the future. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.